Morning, Anthony. I was taken aback when I found you not there this morning. Did you visit Walmart?
Good morning, although it's practically afternoon. Farah, you're oversleeping just because it's your weekend.
Apologies. I was simply too caught up with work last night.
You stayed up working?
Yes, indeed. The beauty of remote work is you can decide your own hours. But some days are quite challenging, If you're out, could you pick me up a coffee? I can't start my day without it.
Isn't it rather late for a morning coffee? Regardless, I can't help with that. I'm not out doing chores. I'm at my mom's.
Really? With your mother? Again?
What do you mean again? I don't visit her that frequently.
You kind of do. You're at your mom's most weekends.
Can you blame me? She's been so lonely since Dad passed away. I'm concerned about her, given her age.
I understand, but can't we spend time together sometimes?
Sorry, maybe next time.
You always put it off. I appreciate you looking after your mom. But remember to take care of me as well sometimes.
You don't really need it. When you've done your chores, then we can discuss this further. You didn't do the laundry yesterday. The laundry basket is overflowing.
Oh, my apologies. I'll get on that now.
And don't forget to shine my shoes. I have an important meeting with a client over lunch tomorrow. Also, there's a lot of dust behind the TV, please clean that up. Oh, and I'll be home for dinner tonight, so it's up to you.
Wait, aren't you piling too much on me? The shoes, fine. But the dust, you could have taken care of it when you noticed.
Why should I? That's a wife's job. This is what wives are supposed to do.
That doesn't hold water. If I'm expected to do everything, then what's the role of a husband? You believe husbands shouldn't contribute to household chores?
Men are breadwinners, women take care of the household. That's the way marriages work.
That's a very outdated view. You can't just take the title of head of the household.
But that's how it was with my parents. Mom took care of all the household chores to support my dad. Lisa, you should do the same for me.
Just because I'm home doesn't mean I'm not working. Have you forgotten that I work full-time?
But that was your decision, wasn't it? I expressed my desire for you to be a housewife when we married, but you overlooked that. You've made your choice, now you need to deal with it.
But you consented to me continuing with my career. Despite our discussion, you still chose to marry me. Given that, it's reasonable that you should support me.
I agreed, but I didn't promise to support you. The person bringing home the paycheck shouldn't be burdened with household chores. If my mom hears this, she'll be upset.
Your mom's opinions shouldn't factor in here. This is our issue, not hers.
This does concern her. She's been a housewife much longer than you. You ought to respect her experience.
I do admire your mom, she's an amazing woman. But we don't need to replicate others' ways. We can find our own rhythm. We don't have to mirror your mom's lifestyle.
You're attempting to sound wise, but it's just self-centeredness. It's only convincing when coming from someone proficient in their tasks. Farah, when you say it, it just falls flat.
Why don't you just live with your mom then? You're free not to come back home.
Oh, so the truth stings, huh? Just complete the tasks I mentioned before I return. As the head of the family, that's my command.
Farah, Anthony shared some concerns with me. Your behavior seems inappropriate. Your role as a wife demands some respect for your husband.
Hello, Mother. What exactly are you referring to?
Don't feign ignorance. Anthony is the breadwinner, Farah. Your responsibility is to provide adequate support to my son. Your self-centeredness isn't acceptable.
Did Anthony express his concerns to you?
Indeed, he opened up to me. He pointed out your lack of contribution to the household chores and your retorts. He vents out to me whenever he visits, you see.
I was unaware of this. My apologies. I understand it must be hard for you living alone, and I regret adding to your troubles.
It's all right, I don't mind. As a parent, it's my duty to lend an ear to him.
Agreed.
However, the core issue lies within your relationship with him. Didn't I tell you before? A wife should support her husband by managing the housework. Have you forgotten?
No, I remember. I just wasn't able to live up to his expectations. My sincere apologies for that.
Didn't I warn you when you got married? If you fail to fulfill your responsibilities, you will create friction in your relationship.
I remember you saying that. However, I believe Anthony isn't shouldering his share. I'm also working. It's challenging for me unless he chips in.
I see your point, Farah. I understand it must be tough balancing work and household chores.
Indeed. That's the truth.
But you must understand. That's the essence of a marriage. You both need to lend support to each other.
I appreciate your viewpoint, Mary. But it feels like I'm the one bearing the entire load right now. Is that what you call mutual support?
Farah, your youth might be influencing your perspective. However, these are a wife's obligations. You can't continue prioritizing yourself indefinitely.
Your words resonate with me. I apologize.
Are you genuinely understanding? Or are you merely being sarcastic now?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't dare to be sarcastic with you, Mother.
As long as that's clear. You're certain?
Absolutely, I understand your perspective. So, don't fret over it.
But I can't help but worry. How about this? I move in with you too. That way, I can monitor your handling of the household tasks. And I can also assist with taking care of Anthony. It's a win-win.
Oh, no, there's no need for concern. Our house is quite small. I wouldn't want you to be cramped.
But, Farah, your wedding was such a joyous occasion for me. I'd hate to see it end in divorce over a trivial disagreement.
Well, you're making a fair point. But to be honest, we're managing well without any help. Anthony and I are in a stable place, truly.
It's okay, Farah, there's no need to worry about me. I will discuss this with Anthony. So, put your concerns to rest.
Anthony, have you wrapped up your day? I need to discuss your mother with you.
Just wrapped it up. What's the issue?
Your mother wants to move in with us. Would you be able to tell her it's not possible, Anthony?
Why should I?
Well, it's difficult for me to refuse her. She doesn't really pay heed to what I say. If you refuse her, she would have to back off, right, Anthony?
No, I was asking why are we refusing her in the first place? There's no solid reason to prevent her from living with us, is there? I already gave her the green light, so it's a done deal.
What do you mean you approved it?
Mom called me during lunch. I told her she could move in with us. She mentioned she would notify her landlord about vacating. She's planning to be here by next week.
Are you serious? Why did you decide this without consulting me? You didn't even involve me in this.
As the head of the family, why would I need to consult? Shouldn't it be my call about who gets to live in my house?
Oh, please. Being the head of the family doesn't give you the right to make unilateral decisions.
I don't appreciate being hassled by a wife who can't even manage the house. Mom will be here next week, so please ensure a room is ready for her. You can manage that, right?
That's not possible. We don't have a room to spare. We only have our bedroom and my workspace.
That's not an issue. You can convert your workspace into a bedroom for her. Issue resolved.
What? Then where will I work? I need a separate room for my work.
You don't necessarily need a specific room to work from home. I only allowed you that room because it was extra. So, enough with the complaints.
Are you serious about this? Why do I need to be inconvenienced for your mother's stay? You should be the one making arrangements, not me.
If you're so insistent on having a room, why not utilize the garden shed? It may be small, but it's sufficiently spacious for your modest remote work, right?
Are you actually serious? You're being completely misogynistic right now. If the garden shed is so suitable, why don't you use it, Anthony?
The head of the family decrees that you now inherit the garden shed. It's settled then, haha. You must respect the decision made by the head of the family.
Well then. You want to play it that way? Then, as the property owner, I decide you now get to live outdoors. As a tenant, you must respect the decision made by the landlord.
What? Landlord. That's a poor joke. It's not humorous in the least.
You stated that the task of moving is the wife's responsibility. So you left everything to me, remember? This house belongs to me.
What? I wasn't aware of that.
Of course, you weren't. You've always left everything up to me. You never tried to listen.
But, shouldn't a couple's property be a shared asset? If you're the owner, then I should be too. Then you don't have the right to do that.
I received this house from my grandmother before we married. So it's not a shared asset, it's solely mine. Tough luck for you.
Seriously. I thought you would have included my name on the deed. Considering I am the head of the family.
It's your own negligence for not learning about these things. But I'm not heartless. Your mother can stay with us for the time being. You can set up a tent in the backyard.
You can't be serious about assigning me the backyard as my room. I was only joking about assigning you the shed. You're just teasing me, aren't you?
You're done with work, aren't you, Anthony? I'm heading over to a friend's place now. Ensure your stuff is moved outdoors by the time I return. I'm instructing you as the landlord.
Farah, how come you've been dodging my calls since yesterday? We need a discussion, so answer me.
Good morning to you too, Mom. Your constant calls since yesterday. What's going on?
Don't act innocent. Anthony appeared on my doorstep yesterday evening. What's this about you expelling him from your home?
I was curious where he disappeared to. He didn't return home. My apologies for any inconvenience caused.
You're apologizing to the wrong person. You can't just do as you please because the house is in your name. What sort of wife forces her husband to leave their home? Justify your actions.
I can justify myself, all right. Anthony asked me to make room for you in our house. And that's exactly what I did. You should be thanking me.
But you didn't have to make him leave. Evicting him to accommodate me isn't the solution. Your actions were senseless and you're aware of that.
You're not wrong. But it seems Anthony lacks a grasp of what's sensible too.
What are you implying?
You don't know? Your dear son tried to evict me first. Probably didn't want his beloved mom lecturing him.
Is that so? I was kept in the dark about this.
He likely wanted to avoid being admonished by his doting mother. I informed him that I required a workspace. His response? A dismissive suggestion for me to use the shed.
I concede, he shouldn't have said that. However, as his wife, you should be standing by him. His shed comment was uncalled for. But it's not right for you to have him sleeping in a tent either.
What about his attempt to cast his wife aside? Is that acceptable?
What are you getting at?
He doesn't fulfill his obligations, comes home and lazes around. And yet, expects me to run around like his servant. Is that what constitutes a fair marriage? Spare me the joke.
I understand, but that's the essence of marriage. Anthony is exerting himself as the sole earner. You can't demand he manages household chores too. Your husband's ensuring there's food on the table. You shouldn't be complaining about that.
I humor Anthony when he declares himself the breadwinner and head of the family. But in reality, I bring in more income than he does.
What?
Anthony's modest salary wouldn't cover our bills, let alone his costly hobbies. His entire salary is saved.
Then how are you covering daily expenses?
Have you not seen the bank statements? Luckily, we have two incomes. Hence, I shoulder all our living costs.
It's unheard of for a wife to out-earn her husband. What is happening?
Times have changed since your generation, Mom. Today, this is pretty standard.
But Anthony mentioned you only make a little extra spending money.
Anthony has never seen my paychecks. I handle all our financial matters. If he saw the amount of work I put in, he wouldn't claim I make only pocket change. Clearly, he doesn't pay attention to me.
I'm in disbelief. So you're saying that Anthony and I were mistaken all along?
I'll refrain from commenting on that. But the truth remains that I'm the primary financial supporter of our home. Hence, I reserve the right to treat him as I see fit. After all, isn't that the role of the one who sustains the breadwinner?
Farah, I apologize. I made a mistake.
So, you're saying sorry now? After breaking your word and running off to your mother's?
I found out from Mom. You've been covering all our expenses, haven't you? You're the one who owns the house too. I was unaware, but I sincerely apologize.
Then? What difference does it make if you're regretful now? You're at your precious mother's place, right? Why not stay there permanently?
But Mom just reprimanded me heavily. She mentioned it's indeed a wife's role to support the breadwinner. But she also highlighted the breadwinner's responsibility to be worthy of that support.
Oh, so you've decided to apologize because Mommy disciplined you? This might be the most insincere apology I've ever gotten.
It's true, Mom's words did influence me. But I also realize my own mistakes. Please accept this as my sincere apology.
You're probably saying sorry because you're finding it tough at your mom's.
No, that's not it. My perspective has genuinely shifted. I've never felt more remorseful. You must trust me. Please, I implore you.
Well, if you're that insistent, you may return to the house. Be thankful.
Thank you, Farah. I realize I can't live without you. I appreciate your forgiveness after all my wrongdoings.
Don't worry, forget about it. Now, about the rent. Given the location and size, I think $750 would be fair.
Rent? But we're married, aren't we? I've never heard of a wife charging her husband rent. Stop joking.
No, you stop making jokes. We're getting a divorce, so it's obvious that you'd have to pay rent.
Divorce? What are you talking about?
I'm moving out. If you wish to continue living there, you'll need to pay rent.
But I apologized. Didn't you forgive me?
Do you seriously think an apology absolves you of everything? Such a juvenile mindset. I haven't forgiven you at all. I can't continue sharing a life with someone like you.
What? Are you serious? I pleaded for your forgiveness. Can't you just let it go?
As expected, you get upset when faced with the truth. Classic you. You're only making a fool of yourself now, so you should quit while you're ahead.
No, hold on. I got a bit carried away. I truly regret my actions.
If you can't even put on a convincing act, stop pretending. But don't worry. I have no problem renting my house to you, despite your follies. The rent may be a bit steep, but as a tenant, you'll need to respect the landlord's decision. After that, I ended my marriage with Anthony. I anticipated that he would react angrily and be reluctant to accept it. However, since Anthony's mother reprimanded him for his wrongdoing, the divorce went smoothly. I was simply relieved that everything was resolved quickly. As expected, Anthony didn't end up renting the house after our divorce. Since I didn't want to continue residing in a place that reminded me of living with Yam, I found another tenant to rent the house. Currently, a young married couple rents the house at a fair market rate, of course. Although I personally don't have pleasant memories of living there. I hope the new tenants can create their own positive memories. Initially, Anthony went to live with his mother after the divorce. But I heard they faced difficulties after she discovered the truth. When she came to apologize to me, she mentioned that she had kicked Anthony out, and he is now residing in a rundown apartment. People who hold strong beliefs tend to be the most resistant to change. That is probably why Mary initially disregarded my warnings about Anthony. Presently, I am enjoying my freedom without being tied down by Anthony or Mary. I am uncertain about what the future holds for me, but I am making the most of my time alone.